thank you for joining me for another Lessons from an Old Quilt episode. So I have a really cool quilt to show you today. It's right here. It is so cool, and I know I say that about all of them. I have to think of some new adjectives. It's spectacular, it's glorious, it's something. I just love it. It's a Drunkard's Path quilt. I bought it at one of those antique mall type places. I think I paid $20 for it. They took my tag, because I bought a couple quilts that day. So they took them all, and I don't know. I'm figuring it's around $20. It's in rough shape. It is a little stinky. It does need some TLC, which I'll talk about when we take a closer look at this. But before we do take a closer look, my name is Chris O'Neill from Sew the Distance. Thank you for joining me, and I hope that you please consider subscribing. It really helps my channel and allows me to make videos. So the Drunkard's Path block is a really unique block. It is curved piecing. Let's just take a closer look at this quilt and learn some stuff from this maker. This quilt is so cool. I just love it. I love the two colors, and that's it, other than the binding, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it's two-color quilt. It's so cool. And the fabrics are really neat, too. So this pink here is what's sometimes called a double pink, or it's like a bubblegum pink. It has like a floral print, and it's overprinted with a different color. So it's a really cool effect. Very old fabric. And this blue, it has these wonderful stars on it, and it's just really cool. So when I looked it up in the books that I use and on the internet and try to figure out the dating on this, I'm dating it around the early 1900s. It could be a little earlier, but that's kind of where I'm getting the vibe that this is from. So it is a really old quilt, but you'll see it's in really rough shape too as we get into it. So let's first talk about the Drunkard's Path block, okay? The block itself is 10 inches by 10 inches. And it is here, and it's made up of 4 units, and we'll see them right here. Okay, and let me show those to you. So right here is one of them. So we can see that the double pink is the concave portion, and the blue is convex. I think that's right, if I remember from school. And then this one, which goes in the block too, is the opposite. So we have the pink as the convex and the blue as the concave. And when you put them all together and twist them around, you get this wonderful block. And this block is really, really cool because when you twist the block, you get this cool effect of a drunkard's path, or somebody who's drunk walking through and not really walking straight, being very staggered. So that's where we get the name from this. And this is a really wonderful pattern to make because it is very versatile. You can play with the colors and even just the placement and make it look really neat. There's so many different layouts for this particular block, so it's worth giving it a shot if you're interested in making this or one like it. So it is completely hand pieced, it is completely hand quilted, and it's a really spectacular example of the Drunkard's Path block. So there is a lot of fading, there's a lot of damage, and let's take a look at that now. So you can see, especially in the borders, there is a lot of damage. There's damage throughout. Let me turn it over onto the other edging so you can see. We can see more damage in here. It's almost as if this quilt was used in a shop or a garage or something like that. Just a ton of damage on the edges. And even within, you see some holes here and just fading and discoloration. And it's so sad to me, especially as these stars just seem to have, I don't know, bled or faded. Whatever happened here, it just is really sad. But overall, it's still a really cool quilt. I do want to try to save as much of it as I can, and we'll see how that goes. So before we turn it over to see the back and to talk about the back, you can see that the borders are the same fabric as this Drunkard's Path unit. And that is kind of cool because it just kept that continuation of the pattern. And I don't know, it almost looks like it's a drunkard's path in a park that has a border of a path around it or something, or a labyrinth or something like that. It's a really cool effect on this. Another thing I want to point out is there was a fabric change down here. Can you see it? Right here on the border, we see that the fabric, maybe it was repaired. I don't think it was, but maybe they just ran out of the fabric. And this unit here is the different fabric, which doesn't even bother me, and it was matched really well, I think. So let's turn it over and take a look at the sad, sad back of this. All right. So you can see that something happened here, whether it be bleach or sun exposure, which I doubt. It looks like almost like a chemical, or something happened. And even up here we have this horrible stain that goes all the way across. I'll see if I can get that all on here. And you can still see some of the blue. It just is so sad. Something spilled on it, or it laid in water or something. And I'll put a picture of the whole thing so you can see it here. But it's sad to me because how do you restore this, or how do you get this back to its glory? I have no idea. So you can see the quilting lines on the back, and the maker just quilted a very simple stitch around each block, and then also on some of the blocks, but not all, also quilted that Drunkard's Path pattern. Unfortunately, it's not on all of them, but I'm not sure. Maybe they just ran out of time or something. Hey, I can relate to that. So unfortunately, we do have so much damage and so much discoloration and so many holes. So it's going to be a labor of love for whatever I end up doing with this and restoring it. It is also filthy. It smells pretty bad, and it definitely needs a bath. But before I can give it a bath, either by hand or in the washing machine, which I hesitate to do, I need to repair some of these holes, or at least cover them up so I don't make the damage worse on this. So let's talk about the binding. The binding, as you can see, was pulled around from the back and just finished on this edge. It's in good shape. I mean, it was in good shape, at least before all the holes. The corners held up well, and everything looks really good with that part of it. So if we see also the hand stitching in the borders, the maker took this extra time to do a detail of just diagonal stitching. The stitching's not super small. Not that that matters, because of course it held it together for a very long time, and it still gives you that wonderful effect, a puffiness and a texture on this amazing quilt. And then finally, the batting is a cotton batting. You can see it in some of these holes, a lot of these holes, and some of it is just even gone from these areas. So what to do? I'm not sure how to restore this amazing quilt. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. Isn't this a glorious quilt? I just love it. I love them all though, but I really do love this one. I hope I can save it, repair it, repurpose it, something, because I really feel like it deserves to have a second chance in this world. I know that sounds corny, but that's the way I feel. So what can we learn from this maker? So first, those two color quilts. This navy blue and pink together is such a classic colorway and looks so neat together. You can really see that Drunkard's Path. And what really makes it even better is extending it into the border and using that same navy blue into the border, because it almost, like I said, gives this idea of a path around a park or something, and then the path within the park too. And I just love that continuity of design in a sense. And I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but either way, I love the way it looks. The next thing that we can learn from this is that simple quilting. Now those stitches were not tiny like we always hear about, you know, the quilt police always say they have to be so big or so small or whatever. It is just a stitch. And even the stitches aren't even. Some are big, some are small. Who cares? It still held it together for who knows how long, at least 100 years. And it made it that nice puffy, cozy quilt feeling that we all love. And lastly, don't give up on a quilt like this. There are things that it could be, you know, so if you have a quilt that say was damaged or is, you know, in a garage and was used as a drop cloth, or whoever knows what this one was used for with all of the fading and staining on the back, you can still repurpose it. You can still use it for something else. You can make other things out of it. I know that's a hot topic right now in the quilting world. But you can. There's things that you can do. And these quilts, there's so much work that goes into these, especially this one, you know, the hand stitching on this. Can you imagine? Can you imagine making all those curved piece blocks by hand? I can't imagine it. And it deserves to have a second chance somehow. It could be a jacket. It could be a repaired quilt. It could be pillows. I don't know, but it does deserve to have a little bit of a chance to live a little bit longer than it has. So don't give up on those holy quilts. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Lessons from an Old Quilt. I have more to come. I was to an auction a few weeks ago and I bought 11 quilts. There were 35 at this auction, 35 quilts, but I only bought 11 because I wanted to pick ones that I knew would be interesting to talk about. So stay tuned for a whole bunch more coming up. So as always, make sure you take some time to sew, and I will see you soon.